And we are live. Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It's a Tuesday afternoon. Slightly late. We're busy wrapping up the podcast that we're busy recording, which will be out tomorrow. So set your alarms because at 9 o'clock South African Standard Time, as always, the Between Two Fans podcast will drop on the channel, and a very fun podcast that we've just had now. And now we need to get into some rugby, and we're talking about RASSIE ERASMUS and the mind games ? Talking a little bit about some of the selections that we might see this weekend, as well about what is the plan of action and what is the current situation that we're talking about. We'll give you a bit of an update as well from both camps, because our man on the ground is on the ground, quite literally. Landed in Cape Town this morning, which means, by the way, that there is All Blacks training up on the channel. They arrived on Sunday, then we get to work, and they were training today at the Athlone Stadium. And so that is on the channel, so you can go and check that out as well. Unfortunately, no BOK content because they moved everything from today to Thursday. And as a result, we won't have any press conferences on today because there isn't one. Quite simple, really, isn't it? Yeah, so let's talk about it, shall we? So we should be talking about, we usually talk about at this time, is the Springbok team, because it usually comes out at 11 o'clock-ish, 11, 12-ish South African time on a Tuesday. We have been naming our teams on a Tuesday since the British and Irish Lions, with the exception of that France team announcement delay during the World Cup. And I was trying to work out when that team announcement was actually with regards to the time. And whether we actually did name it before or after that France team announcement, because if that could be the only time we've actually announced our team after our opposition since about 2021, which is very interesting. So yeah, it's an interesting a decision, and I think the reason that we've delayed this is quite simple, and it's the fact that we've got injuries, and that we don't exactly know who's going to be fit and who's not going to be not. And ironically, when we talked about the fact last week, everyone was complaining about the fact that even Estevez was not named and then was named, and things were changing. Now we're delaying our team announcement for that, and now everyone's like, is this more mind games? And it's not, at the end of the day. Well, maybe it is to a certain degree, I don't know. I'm not sitting in the BOK team meetings listening to what's going on and what the thinking is when it comes to delaying the announcement, but it has been delayed. And I think that a certain Sia Khaleesi is probably a big part of that, and maybe a different team. And I think this could be the indication that there could be a lot of rotation, the fact that we have delayed the announcement, so we don't want to see them preparing for a changed team, which we might name on Thursday. And I think this, in theory, opens up to be able to spring surprises. We could potentially name a lot of different changes. And RASSIE ERASMUS said as much. He said there will be rotation, there will be changes to the team come the announcement. Then he said on Saturday, he said we will have to change the team for next week, and there will be changes. So, yeah, maybe that is the main reason that it has been delayed. So the question then comes is, from a mind game point of view, a mental point of view, this obviously does complicate the All Blacks preparation. They would have been looking at, all right, cool, teams going to come on Tuesday, and they're going to be able to analyze. Now, if we name our team at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, for example, and it's the same team, they then prepare for the same team. And they'll have looked at the fact that there were a couple of different plays, for example, and a couple of different structural things that we've seen, and a slight difference in the way we played. But at the end of the day, they can plan for Sashvan Mngomezulu at 10, and they can plan for the front rows that we're going to see. And, there was a suggestion last week that Eben Etzebeth was going to be named in the starting lineup all of a sudden before the game, and that was all a ploy, which didn't happen. So those suggestions were wrong at the end of the day. Now, if we do change, where do we change? Why do we change? And how do we change? So for me, in terms of your sort of obvious changes, and I think a good way of doing this is to maybe actually bring up last week's team. So maybe let me go and find that quickly, because I think that might be a good way to start it, and to sort of look at exactly where we might change things. I'm gonna make sure I've got the final correct team here, and I do. There it is. Right, so that's last week's team. Okay. Injuries. That man on screen is a potential doubt. In fact, I'll be very surprised. Now, we never heard about whether his HIA was passed or not. So we don't know if there's concussion with Siakalisi. So we don't know if he's not available this weekend from a concussion point of view, because obviously if it is a concussion, then it's a stand-down period. And as a result, we're expecting not to see Kurt Lawrence in the team. Now, what we haven't got is confirmation, and in theory they're supposed to, but we haven't got confirmation that Kane Moody, Stephen Kitsov, and those likes have all rejoined the team. We'll only have the confirmation tomorrow when we actually have training. So it's a bit frustrating that we didn't get to see any Springbok training, because it would have been nice to have seen the players available. Now, that in itself is an interesting concept. You know, the fact that Kane Moody right now could be training as we speak. They could be training in Cape Town. He could be training at 13. He could be training at 11. He could be training at 14. He could be training at fullback for all we know. He won't be a fullback. And the All Blacks, in theory, wouldn't know. Now, you can try and get somebody into the team hotel and sort of stuff. You know, if you really wanted to find out, you probably could. It's not, they kind of know where they're training and they can probably find someone there. But the fact is that they don't know what's going on. And if there are changes, I think Kane Moody could be one. We could see him on the wings. You know, it would traditionally be Maxwell Mapimpi, but maybe they might go Kane Moody for a very specific reason. And they might go Fussy at wing and really at full back. They could go to Kanyama 12 and just Krulo 13. They could go to Kanyama 13. All these sort of changes do kind of tweak the way that we might play on Saturday. And as a result, by keeping the team back, it's probably created more doubt in the All Blacks' minds in terms of what they're preparing for. At the end of the day, we kind of name our team on Tuesday because we kind of sitting there saying, you know, there's our team, try and stop it type of thing. By delaying it, it's two things. First of all, you don't get this extra 2 days to look at it. But I think it's more in terms of a creative doubt, or why have they delayed it? Is it an injury thing? Is it because they want to see if Siakalisi and Kurt Lawrence are going to be fit? Maybe there's more knocks we don't know about, for example. You know, is Ronald here? You know, he was as an HIA. So is he completely fit for this weekend? Are there any other injuries floating around? You know, we might not know, because obviously you only kind of know the full extent of the injuries the next day. So that could be one of the reasons in terms of delaying the kickoff. The announcement is getting that injury report in, making sure you've got a fully fit team, and preparing as such. You know, the general rule is if you don't train on Monday, then you're not eligible for selection. So from that kind of perspective, then, so in theory they should know what the team is, but by simply not naming it, there is that certain amount of doubt in, are we going to see changes? How are we going to see the changes? Are we going to see different front rows, different lock combinations, different number 9? You know, how much does that change it? Apollo at 10, Nasacho at 10, Amani at 10, all three very different prospects. So there is definitely probably a bit of doubt in terms of the All Blacks analysis with regards to, well, what are we actually preparing for? Who are we preparing for? Is probably more the right way of saying it. So it's an interesting situation to be in. And I'm very keen to obviously see the team on Thursday. Now, changes I would probably like to see is I would like to see Jaden Hendrickson in the side. I think he should start. I think that Kobus Reinach, he's solid at the end of the day, but I don't think we've ever seen him being like tear down the wall, you know, like taking that jersey and saying no one's going to touch it. I don't think we've always seen good performance from him, but I don't think we've seen a special performance, which is a different level. And I just felt that in terms of a game management perspective, it could be a position where I think we could strengthen. I think Jaden Hendrickson offers more control. I watched that match. I felt it was a position where I think if we had him, I think we would have been a bit better. I'm a big Jaden Hendrickson fan. I think he reads the game incredibly well, and I think that he has such a good skill set and tactical awareness that in tight games like Saturday, where we were sometimes struggling at times and where we weren't getting quite the dominance we wanted, and you need to go to a plan B or stuff, I think that's where Jaden Henderson comes into his own. And I would really, really like to see him, you know, go into that starting lineup. And I think Grant Williams has become so good off the bench that I think they'll potentially continue to use him like that. Because again, if you're still on that whole idea of, you know, Grant has to start because he's the best scrum half, or you know, if you're on the bench, you're not the best player. That's old. That's an old way of thinking, because we know Malcolm Mark's our best hooker and yet comes off the bench. So I think that for me is a immediate place I would probably see a change is Jaden in at 9. If Siya Kolisi is not fit, then I think the simple change is to go Markov and Staden at 6. If Ruan O'Keefe is fit, I think he had a really good game. I think we'll see Evan at 4, Pieter-Steph Toy shifts back to 7. I think Ben James Dixon might actually drop out of the 23. I said that I might actually keep his spot on the podcast, but the more I think about it, the more I think Ruan O'Keefe has probably done enough to keep that spot because his lineups were so good. So you can go Evan, Ruan O'Keefe, Pieter-Steph Toy back at 7. You can then have a bomb squad of Ulrich Lowe, Quacker Smith and Ben Jason Dixon if you wanted to, because we do have a bit of a shortage on lock. So you could have 3 loose forwards on the bench, a whole new back row really. You wouldn't really have, and you could have Ulrich Lowe at 8, for example, Ben Jason Dixon at 7, and Quacker at 6 when they come on. So there's that option. I don't think we're going to see a 7-1 split necessarily. It's a nice idea, but it would obviously depend on the players available. You know, you could go with a 7-1 split if you were then going to have an Eben Etzebeth next to Pieter-Steph the Toy starting, maybe a Ben Jason Dixon at 7. You then got a Ruan O'Keefe on the bench and you could go Albert Lowe, Quacker Smith, and a Mark starting. But I think, given the fact that we've got the injury potential to Kolisi, that becomes probably quite unlikely. What would be interesting in terms of 7-1 split is you kind of lose a scrum half. So Ches and Kolb can obviously cover that. That's kind of the idea. But then you'd probably only have Andre Paul on the bench, which you can have, because you've got Apele Fassi who covers 14, 11, 15. You've got Sasha who covers 10, 12, 15. You've got Creel who covers 13, 14. You've got Damien Delaney who covers 12, 13. You've got, and you'd have a Adabax Pimpy, for example, who just covers 11, but you don't really need to worry about that too much. So there are options. There are certainly options. Let's go to the comments, are we? And see what everybody's got to say. And Tion saying, Pieter-Steph the Toy doubling up at 4-7. We give the All Blacks a chance to beat us 14-15. Kuba says, sorry, we're a bit late, but Burning Lash saying, Pieter-Steph Toy playing hook on Saturday, Colby at prop. Demiso saying, I'd like to see Lekanya at 13 and Jesse move to 14, replace Kurt Lawrence or Moody at 14 and rest Jesse. I think Jesse will probably not play against Argentina, so I think he plays against New Zealand and then probably gets a rest in that Argentina trip, and then we'll see whoever finishes in that last game. Contender says, part of that 12 is seeming very imminent. We need to rest Creel, so will jam 13. Rest Asher. I don't think we need to rest Creel. He's played 3 games this in the last 5 weeks. So he didn't play against Portugal. So he's played against Australia twice and New Zealand once. So, the idea of having to rest JC Creel, he's played 3 games of rugby since mid-July. So he's played 3 games in about 6-7 weeks. And, so he can definitely play. I mean, he played a lot more like that in the World Cup. So he doesn't need a rest. I think he'll rotate for Argentina, but it's not so much a resting point of view. It's more kind of just a rotation to get other players a chance. But Contender saying, rest Sash, I'll put him on the bench and start Money at 10. Money can focus on playing. Pollard does the kicking from 12. Jean saying, Kubas Visa and Jans Kirsten will be Springboks. Well, the way they're playing, they're definitely announcing themselves. I think Jason Jenkins, for example, is somebody who's going to be an interesting one to watch at the Sharks next season. The locks are a premium, apparently, after a bit of our lock crisis. And I think if you're a lock in South Africa, you'll be sitting there going, this is my time now. I can actually get myself in the mix here. Tian saying, we will most likely see Grant at 9, Kubas on the bench, Mapims gets called up, but if not, Fassi will go to 14, Chesn to 11, Sash at 15, Paro starts at 10, Marco comes in for Sia. All pretty good suggestions. Contender says, give Nico a start and have Ruud or Evan on the bench. Bongi or Salmon could get captaincy. Also an interesting concept. Nicholas Jans van Rensburg. If you want to go with a 7-1 split, for example, you could go with Nicholas Jans van Rensburg on the bench and have Ruud Nokia start. And still have, 3 loose forwards. That could be maybe what the 7-1 split could suddenly be. And I must admit, if I looked at that All Blacks pack in the second half, there is a certain temptation. in terms of we could really steamroll them at the end. We haven't quite got the scrum ascendance we wanted to get. So I think you then sort of start, if Stephen Kitsoff is ready, you start Stephen Kitsoff with Bongi Manambi and Frans Verherber, and you bring Oxenchair off the bench, where I think he can cause a lot of damage with Malcolm Marx. You could go Thomas Toy or Vincent Koch. They've traditionally gone Vincent Koch. You could have Nico Janssen van Rensburg coming off the bench. Peter Toy could be shifting to 5, and you could have a brand new back row of a Kwagga Smith, Alric Lowe, Ben Jason Dixon. I mean, that's a mental bench to have. So it'll be interesting to see what the options are. When we did a 7-1 split last year at Twickenham, we had 2 locks and 2 loose forwards. We had Jean Clade and Archis Neyman coming on as a combination, really. And then we had Kwagga and it was Jasper in the final. Yeah. And Dion Ferry at 16. Good times. Redline says, as long as Murat doesn't play, well, I think he's still injured. Willie said, Mani will start, Cape Town thing, and reckons Kitty will start as well. Leandro Vez said, in the weekend we will see Mani, Hondra, and Sasha all playing together. Wouldn't that be interesting? Box says, Dad credit Lawrence is good for the team. I'm entirely sure what you mean by that. Redline saying, let play. Box says, still a Marvin Ory back. I've always been very surprised that he hasn't been called back, to be perfectly honest. TJ says, experience all the way for this one. All Blacks will be coming back with vengeance. Yeah, they will. I mean, I do think it'll be another close game. I do think it's going to be a tight one. I think I think there will be a response. There's no doubt about it for me. But again, I think it's 2 things. Obviously experience in terms of being able to deal with that, but maybe a new look team, for example, that's hungry and maybe they've been preparing very specifically for the second test. It wouldn't surprise me if this particular Springboks setup told a certain amount of players you're going to play the second test, and they might obviously always change things. You don't necessarily have to stay with your initial plan, because injuries and stuff like that might dictate changes, but they generally stick to a plan. So they could very well have had a second team almost being preparing for this game, and now they're going to release them in inverted commas, and they've kind of been practicing like that. Maybe that's exactly how they did practices last week. Maybe they had basically a shadow match, one team versus the other type of thing, and one team ready to come in this week. And I wouldn't be a brand new team, but maybe combinations. Maybe a different front row, a different lock combination, different centre pairing, different halfback pairing. Maybe Jaden's going to play against next to 100. Maybe Jaden have been working with Monty. Maybe Monty and Grant Williams have been working a lot together, and that's kind of going to be this weekend's combination. So there's different ways that we can tweak a team to make it a new team without making it a completely new team. So I'm very interested to see. I must admit, I'm not impressed with the All Blacks' depth, especially in the back line. I think that they might go with a 6-2 split. I think that they're very aware of the fact that they just can't cope with that last 20 minutes. They've been held scoreless now 3 times in a row, I think it is, in the final 20 minutes. Not really good enough for an All Black side, because they do start so well. And I think the fact that they do start so well and there's such a big drop-off immediately points to the fact that their bench isn't good enough. And you look at the bench, and I think when you've got Asafa Mua, Ofatunga, Farsi, Fletcher, Newell, Sam Durry, and Sam Penifina coming off the bench, that's inexperience on inexperience on inexperience. And I think it is a mass drop-off in quality. I do. I think if Ethan de Groot's there and Tamati Williams comes off the bench, I think it's much better. I think if Samasoni Takawa was starting and Corey Taylor coming off the bench, or vice versa, that's much better. I think if Tupo Vai is fit, or Dalton Papali'i is fit, I think that's a lot better than at the moment. So they kind of, I mean, Sam Durry had a really nice start to his career. There's no doubt about it. But he's played 2 or 3 games, I think now, for New Zealand. I think he's played 3. Very, very young in his New Zealand career, and even at Super Rugby, he hasn't played massive amount of rugby. And you could be a talented player. I think he is a very talented player. I think he's going to play a lot of games for the All Blacks, but it's just a whole different level. So I think there will be a temptation to go with a 7-1 split in terms of just that raw overpowering them in the second half. However, we already saw just how risky it can be in terms of the fact that we had Kurt Lawrence to go off with a concussion. And we were lucky that we didn't have more injuries to the backline players. We had a lot of injuries last week with Ronald Keir an issue, and we had, Siya Khaleesi then had an issue, and PSF the toy was swapping in and amongst this position so much. But again, I suppose it worked as well. Brent saying, would love to see Steenkamp, Marks and Malherbe start. I feel that could bring the Grant and the scrums we missed in the first test. Williams and co are proper scrimmaging unit. Redline saying, I just hope for good ref and TMO. The last week was shocking both ways. Brent reckons Fussy in at 11, Villiers back at 15, Corbus and Sasha to go again. Maybe give Williams a full second half. Contender says, Dixon will remain at 7 with Low at 8. Vessels, I think, why would you change Jasper Visa at 8? It says, Vessels could start at hooker with Steenkamp and prop. Kitsoff will be off the bench for his block return, bring back the Fletcher, Phil 6-2 split. I'd be surprised if we see Low at 8. I think Jasper Visa starts at 8. I think the way he played last week, so good off the start. I think Low was very good off the bench. JP reckons, I reckon Money will start with Sasha on bench. Pollard might play 12 and I'm 13. And Wazi says, can I explain to you why RASSIE doesn't rate Wilco low? He does rate Wilco low, but we've got so many titles. Wilco low, I think, will play lots of tests for the box. Vance Malherbe and Vincent Koch are coming to the twilight of their career. Trevor Nukon is already being phased out, for example. But it's just a space issue. I mean, that's already those two tight ends. Nico Thomas Toys are third tight end. Fourth choice would probably be Wilco low. He has been named on the reserve list before, so he's definitely on the radar. Petra says 5-3 in SA, team luck will run out. Rainbow says 9 Hendrick, so I assume 10 Lebok, 11 Colby, 12 Pollard, 13 Creel, 14 Moody, and 15 Sasha. Brent saying, see unlikely to start Marco, PSF, Twin, Visa with Ben Jason and Quacker on the bench. And Brent saying it's virtually impossible to accurately call them a RASSIE match day 23. Fun to try though. Well, that's what we're doing, isn't it? You know, we're looking at what could the combinations be, how might he change things, and what could those changes look like. In terms of the change we could see, the split, you know, from the bench split, the combinations. So I'm going to be putting up my predicted team today, hopefully, and or maybe not necessarily a predicted team, maybe my team, or what I would like to see, because I think trying to predict RASSIE ERASMUS is, you know, shooting fish in a barrel from 4 kilometers away at night during a storm. You know, the fish might be in the barrel in terms of you might know exactly which players are available and in the mix, but good luck trying to, you know, select the combination. That's genuinely what it's exactly like. So, yeah. CP Nunes says, if Henko van Veek is back from injury, the box need to bring him and Juventus Julius into the mix and get games under them. Tian saying, seeing the Stormers backline playing Cape Town is a thing of beauty. Wouldn't be surprised if Rugby gets tempted by that. Don alluded to it when asked about Kitsy. So here's saying, no, it's not the starting line that has been announced yet. Contender saying, for the All Blacks, Derry will start. Severe at 7, Satiti at 8. Ifili and Proctor will start in the centres. Reese and Tilley will start. Love gets test debut. Bell comes off the bench. Jordan to 15. Contender, never ever change with your team predictions. They're always very entertaining. Look, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen because maybe it does happen, but I'd be very surprised if we see those changes. I don't think they'll change much. In all honesty, I think maybe they'll be tempted to a 6-2 split. They've got to try and find a way of repelling that Bok impact in the last 20 minutes, and they've done a very bad job of doing it so far. So I do think that is something that they might consider. So yeah, I don't think we'll see too many in terms of the team announced, by the way. So the All Blacks one will be announced first thing on Thursday morning. I think it's like 7 o'clock when it gets announced. The men's one gets now. The South African one gets announced at 9 o'clock. 9 a.m. So Thursday morning, we're going to be doing a lot of reactions videos, getting the news out and stuff like that. So you can just do planning your week. So in terms of the week, we've got All Black content out at the moment. They've started training. They're down in Cape Town. That is on the channel. You can go and watch that. And there is going to be a Springbok press conference tomorrow. The players available for that conference might give an indication of who we might see on Thursday. Again, I'm sure they'll be very deliberate about the players they use, unless they're very boring and put in like a Malcolm Marks and like a PSF, the 20 players you know are going to be involved in the 23. But we might see a surprise. And if we do see a surprise, then that might be an indication of the type of selections we might see on Thursday. But we won't know. But that's the only time we might get an indication. And hopefully, it will be an exciting press conference in terms of the type of players. I would love to see, like, put Kitsoff up and put Money up and put up, who else would be an interesting one to have up? Don't put Jan Hendrik Wessels up because he's just very boring in the press conference. Who else would be fun and controversial? Thorne Billy, maybe. Or, yeah, I think that's probably about the because everybody else, it's not a particularly big squad, to be fair. Throw Nicholas Jansen van Rensburg. There we go. Nicholas Jansen van Rensburg, Mani Liebach, and who else did I say? Villaroo. Or Jane. That would be interesting. Distract Sports saying, "Hey champion, what's the go? Interesting shooting mission for. I wondered where it was going, but it worked. Yeah, like I must admit, it was also going. I wasn't sure if it was going to go pear shaped or not, but eventually worked out in the end. I appreciate you acknowledging that because I thought it did come together quite nicely." Brent saying, "There's talk of New Zealand upping their kicking game. If that's the case, then perhaps Moody at 11 is a good call. Colby, Fussy, and Moody." JP saying, "Beating New Zealand this weekend will make it impossible for them to win the championship. That should be priority for the game. We've got a Freedom Cup to win, you know." Bugger the Rugby Championship. Well, obviously the Rugby Championship is the one you really want to win, but I want to get the Rugby that Freedom Cup back, you know, because then that means, you know, you beat them once next year and you retain it. In World Cup years, you can't lose it because it's not on the line. So it becomes so much easier to defend the Freedom Cup once you've got it than to actually win it outright. So let's get it back, and then we can go on our own little 4 or 5 year streak of having the Freedom Cup. Hannah says, Volkolo played lots of tests for the Boks when he made his Boks debut in 2017. RASSIE gave him a miss since 2018. Yes, but who have our tight heads been during that time? Trevor Nyakane, Thomas du Toit, Frans Malherbe, Vincent Koch. Let's do an age check, shall we? Vincent Koch is, I want to say 34. 34. He is indeed 34. Trevor Nyakane, who's already been phased out of the squad, and Thomas du Toit's come in, he's 35. And then you've got Frans Malherbe, who is currently 33, and so, then you've got Thomas Torres, 29, and you've got Volkolo, who is 30. So I do think Volkolo is going to play for the Boks. He's played 14 tests already. So, you know, he wouldn't be a newbie to international rugby. I think right now, if we were to get 2 injuries at tight end, even 1 injury, I'd be interested to see if they were to go Trevor Nyakane back on the squad or if they were to go to Volkolo. So I do think, I maintain, I think he will be back in the Boks setup. He's been on the radar. You know, he has been in reserve lists and stuff like that. So he has been a name that has been dropped in the conversation. And as soon as I think you're on the radar, then you're there and thereabouts. So this was the standby list earlier, which had Volkolo and Intutuko Unu as the 2 props. Neatly Bashir as a prop. So yeah, it's him and Neatly Bashir. I think after the season he had the Bulls, if he has another season like that, then I think he probably goes up the pecking order. So yeah, I maintain I'm not going to back down on that. I do think he's going to play lots of tests. People, unfortunately, I have to wrap up there. I've got other content I need to go and get out, but it's always fun to just jump on and do a live show. We'll be live once again tomorrow, 1 o'clock, and then we'll be live on Thursday for the RASSIE Erasmus team announcement, which is going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you tune in and subscribe. By the way, we are well past 75,000 subscribers at the moment, on the journey to 80,000 subscribers. Go and watch the training, by the way. Our cameraman almost gets tackled by Will Jordan. Should have just dropped a shoulder. Bang! So go and watch that. And we'll see you guys all same place, same time tomorrow. Again, please like the video. You know, people are very bad liking the video. It's not hard. Just go and like our video, please. Appreciate it. And if you are new, subscribe to the channel.